I'm 50 now, and about 5 years ago, I discovered I was autistic. I'll give you a little bit of the backstory of this with the intention of hopefully helping some people. Hopefully, if you believe you're autistic, there might be some similarities here. You might go, oh, I relate to that. And it might encourage you to look into and research autism a bit more. Or there might be a friend or family member that has some similarities to me. Let's get into it. So yeah, it was about 5 years ago, I started to see a specialist, a clinical psychologist. My mental health wasn't very good at the time, so I wasn't seeing her for any other reason other than that. And she told me that it took her about 5 minutes to tell that I was autistic, which was easy for her because first she was a clinical psychologist and an autism assessor, but also, more importantly, that she was autistic herself. And a crucial note, because she's a woman, women and girls are well known for masking very heavily, which is what I was clearly doing and still do a bit. It hides people's ability to see autism. You just appear like an average person because you're masking, you're just trying to fit in. Another interesting tidbit about this was that my file that she read before she agreed to see me, it took me a year to wait on a waiting list to see her. She reported to me that my file had something about childhood trauma, as well as supposedly being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. She said those two things for someone like me, with all the other elements, sensitivities and so forth. She read my file and she said there were some red flags there. And specifically the borderline personality combined with the childhood trauma. In her experience, she told me that was a really common thing, that people would be misdiagnosed with that. So when I started doing my own online assessments, I started going through, because I was told, to start with, I was told I was neurodiverse, and then I went through and figured out what things would apply to me and what wouldn't. I figured, well, autism must be it, even though she didn't say. And so then I started doing a lot of the tests, which looking back now, I realise they weren't for me. They're not for women. They're not for girls. They're not for high masking individuals at all. It's pretty much still designed for a young white boy. That's what they're designed for. You know, some of the questions I recall were like, do you talk in a monotone voice, and stuff like, which we know to be stereotypical autistic traits, and which of course I didn't resonate with any of that. And those tests would come back inconclusive, or that no, you're definitely not autistic. Now, I can't remember how I came across this, but the next thing that I looked into was masking, or this Embrace Autism website referred to it as camouflaging. And when I did that test, that I got very, very high marks. And that was a bit of a telltale there that told me that, oh, okay, I'm masking, which was quite likely hiding the autism. And so that meant it was a lot harder for me then. I'm masking. That wasn't 100% evident that I was autistic, but it gave me a starting place. And so I had to, because again, it was going to be a month before I spoke to the clinical psychologist again. And when I did, and I told her all of these tests that I'd done, all the research I'd done, realistically, that should have been it. I mean, for her, she said, yeah, I thought you were autistic and this behaviour is autistic. I can't remember who I learnt this from, so I can't credit them. I can't remember. But there is a saying out there that neurotypical people don't do deep dive research on autism, wondering if they are autistic. That's a thing. That's not a thing that they do. And I found that quite reassuring, because that's what I was doing. I was doing all this research and I'm seeing all these signs everywhere going, I relate to that. That sounds like me. Oh, I think that is me. But at the same time, I was kind of gaslighting myself, thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just hoping I'm autistic. I don't know why you'd want to be if you're really not. But I just wanted to be honest with myself, and I was wanting to make sure that I wasn't, I don't know, unknowingly, because that's what you see on social media. People accuse us of all wanting to be autistic, or there's this epidemic and all of a sudden people are diagnosed with autism now. What's, like as if there's some cause of it. I have done a video on this, by the way, on is there an autism epidemic, if you're interested in that. But one of the traits that I picked up from my research was the prevalence of sensory issues. It's really common in autistic people, where we smell things that other people can't smell, or the smell we pick up are a lot stronger than what other people can perceive them as. Light or bright light, for me, it's the sun in my eyes. I just cannot stand that. Or, someone's got a watch or something and it reflects in my eyes. I want to claw their eyes out for doing it. It just drives me insane. And I appreciate that nobody likes bad smells and nobody really enjoys a bright light shone in their eyes, but it doesn't cause the same reaction in their mind as it does ours. And then you've got sounds as well. Geez, a smoke alarm. I just want to rip it off the ceiling and stick it in a bucket or in the toilet, And so these were things, again, nobody likes the sound of a smoke alarm. They're designed to be annoying, but it's just how much more intensive it is for us. And, we get gaslit by that. People tell us that, oh, well, I don't like that, so therefore it's no different for you. And the same with touch as well. There's certain things, the way things touch us, whether it be clothing or what have you, tags on your clothes. And people will say, well, I don't like them either. But for us, it's just like a needle in your eye. It's just dry, it's just so strong and so in your face. And people are just so quick to dismiss it that it's not really that bad for us. Not that they would know. The other thing was special interests. And, for me, I've from a very young age had a really strong, intense interest in music. I'm a music buff first and a musician second. That's just how it's always going to be. I have an intense interest. There's certain things that I have an intense interest in. And if you're wondering, do you have a special interest or not? Put it in perspective for you. When someone said this to me one day, that they told a neurotypical person about their special interest and called it that, and the neurotypical person said back, what's a special interest? Now, when I heard that, there was a lot going on there. I'm like, how can you not understand the word special interest? I took it literally. But really what that person was saying is, I don't relate to that. I don't have anything that I'm intently interested in. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be music like it is for me, or guitar or whatever. It's not about the thing itself. It's how interested, how invested in that thing you are. That's what it counts as being a special interest. It doesn't have to be trains or this lifelong thing. Now, the other thing is literal thinking. Now, it's not quite what everyone thinks it is. It makes sense. You think, I think I know what that is. It's not always what people portray it to be. What I understand literal thinking is, like, if you say something, like, for example, if I say an apple and an orange right now to you, what comes to your head? Now, when that happens to me, even just saying that, I literally can see an orange and an apple. That's what comes in my mind, whether I like it or not. Certain lines in songs will say something and I'll visualize that thing. Or other times they'll say something and I'll take it, like, I can't think of an example right as I'm saying that. Oh yeah, it was when someone said, what's a special interest? They meant I don't relate to your claim of having a special interest. What are you talking about? But I interpreted it to mean that they didn't understand the concept. The question, what's a special interest? To me, that sounds like they're asking, what even is that? I don't know, that those two words together combined don't even explain adequately what it could be. And here's a warning, although I went through the process of being diagnosed, which they say now that, yes, do that if you need some accommodations at work and you need an official diagnosis. If your boss isn't an asshole, they're probably just going to help you out anyway if it's bright lights or whatever. It's too noisy. There's all sorts of things that can be done. But sometimes you might need a diagnosis for accommodations, but it's not the be all and end all. First of all, in most countries, there's a long waiting list to get them, and they are very expensive. And fine, if you want to do it, that's okay. But be warned that myself and other people I feel this way, and I've heard other people say the same thing, that being diagnosed didn't validate their experience in any way. It certainly, as I say, didn't validate me at all. But what did? And this is what I would suggest you do if you're not diagnosed, but you want to validate yourself. You want to know, am I really autistic? And especially if you're older, most countries have online groups where you can, or in person would be best. But if you can't do in person, there's online ones. We have them in Australia, in every state, almost every state. And for me, being older, there are groups of late diagnosed, older autistic people, and you meet in these groups. The ones I've been to are quite structured, these online meetings. There's a mediator or a person who says, okay, it's your turn now. And they have a subject to talk about. It's not just a free-for-all. It's a very structured, great thing, the one in Victoria that I went to. And listening to those other people's stories, being able to ask them questions, that, for me, was validating. And what it told me was a lot. I learned from that is that you don't need some special form to say, hey, I'm autistic. Nobody asks. I thought they would say, here, if you want to be in this group, you need a certificate, you need to prove you're autistic. Going in that group was the proof. Because here's the thing, neurotypical people do not possess the ability to pretend they're autistic in real time. We see them do it on TV because they're scripted and everything, and they still get it wrong. Us autistic people can tell that they're not really autistic. It's very easy for us to tell that. For the most part, if you watch a show long enough, you go, oh, no, they're not autistic. But in person, in real life, no way. There's no way known in not that they would want to, right? But the point I'm making is you get in this group, that's what validates you. You say some things, and it's this group of people that go, yeah, I get you. I know what that's like. Because the majority of our life, the things that we experience only apply to us, it seems. The majority of people around us don't relate. They go, what are you talking about, that bright light? They invalidate our experience constantly, and it makes us have internalized ableism. It makes us gaslight ourselves. And here's a final warning as well. Once you go through this, once you either get diagnosed or you validate yourself by going into a group like I just mentioned, there are those sensitivities, unfortunately, they are going to get worse. The symptoms that we've been talking about, and there's more than that, those things might actually get worse. Because if you've been masking, if you're older, over 30, and these things applying to you, it's quite likely that you're masking. In fact, I bet my bottom dollar you are. And that means you're suppressing the way you respond to all of this stuff. And as you gradually peel that mask back and stop doing it, you will find that you will start experiencing more intense emotions, and those symptoms will appear to get worse. Don't worry, it's just, we all have to go through it. And then, you'll have to deal with people telling you that you're not really autistic at all and everything. Just bear in mind that it's simply that they don't know anything about autism. Just remember that anyone invalidating your experience, one person said to me, as I was going through this process 5 years ago, I wouldn't diagnose yourself with the first thing you find on the internet. And at the time I was really annoyed at them for that. It was as a person who normally was very supportive of anything I do in my life. But that's not really what was going on. They were just operating under what they knew. They were just going by what they saw and what they understood, which about autism, not very much. And about what I was going through, I explained the whole thing, but they obviously didn't listen to the whole thing. But anyway, if you are going through this, if you're going down this rabbit hole, you're doing deep dives of research, wondering if you're autistic, or you've got a friend or family member, I'd like to hear if you want to share a bit of your story on here, I'd love to hear about it. Or, you know, you've got some questions how to approach a family member or how to be an advocate, please pop them in the section below. Have yourself a good day.